Lord be with you, and a warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powers Court with Kilbride. Well, welcome to our front garden today. I couldn't resist but sit beside these magnificent roses. If I tilt it very gently, if you look very closely, and I'll show you a photo, I like to call this underskirts. They are magnificent roses and smell as beautiful as they look. You're welcome to join us today as we take an interesting look at the word time in Greek and the two words that mean time and their meanings when it comes to the scripture that we have today and when it comes to our own lives and our connection with God. But first, and as always, we pause for a moment in prayer. Suddenly, a leader of the synagogue came in and knelt before Jesus, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus got up and followed him with his disciples. Then suddenly, a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be made well." Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." and they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread throughout that district. For the one word time that we have in the English language, there are two words in the Greek language. The first is chronos. That's where we get chronology from. It means linear time, all the dates and appointments and the things that we live by in our world today. The second is Kairos. Kairos means God's timing, and they differ in this way. For example, you meet a friend for coffee from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. That's chronos, linear time. But during the time of meeting, you open up a conversation with your friend that deeply transforms your relationship with that person. That's Kairos. Kairos, or God's timing, it's not about the length of time or the pocket of time, but what actually happens within that pocket of time. In our scripture reading this morning, we have many examples of chronos and kairos. We have Jairus, who is the synagogue leader, who has had the most appalling thing, the worst thing, happen to him. His daughter has died. And so he sets out to find Jesus. He approaches Jesus and asks Jesus to come with him on his specific timeline, to lay a hand on his daughter that she might live. And Jesus agrees to go and begins to go with him. This is chronos. But what happens in that timeline is they are interrupted by a woman who, within her own timeline, has been suffering for 12 years. She thinks to herself, if I can only just touch a piece of Jesus' garment, I will be healed. And so she does. And in the middle of poor Jairus' timeline, and you can imagine how desperate and distraught he is, Jesus stands still and he says, "Who touched me?" His focus is diverted completely onto a different source, a different subject. And there in front of him is the lady who, in her timeline, is also having a Kairos moment where time stops still. Because not only is she feeling that her bleeding has stopped within her, but no doubt upon her face there is that look of transformation that is taking place, even in the telling of her own story. You see, in this scripture today, we have two timelines. The timeline of Jairus' desperation, and the timeline, the 12 years that lady has been suffering. Desperation. Both of them turn to faith at the end of the day, and both of their timelines are interrupted by Jesus. And in that Kairos moment, in that interruption, the miracle happens, the transformation occurs. And it occurs to me that we could call a Kairos moment a thin place. A thin place where heaven touches earth, where God reaches down. There are many thin places in our lives today, and most of them unexpected. And a thin place isn't actually a physical place, or doesn't have to be, although there are many of those. It can be a happening within that pocket of time, a Kairos moment of God's timing that can transform things completely for you. So, Kairos, that definition of time, does not depend on the movement of time. It doesn't depend at all on linear time. It depends on our focus on the present time, on the moment itself, because only through that can we acknowledge the transformation that can occur in any setting through that Kairos moment, if that makes sense. Some would say, chronologically, the kingdom of heaven is coming, that the kingdom of heaven will come to this earth. Others would say, kairologically, the kingdom of heaven is now. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of heaven is present in every single moment. And to be honest, I would be one of those people. Not only is it coming in an afterlife or Christ returning again, but it is here in this living moment. And I wonder to myself, if we had the ability to firstly recognize the two definitions, recognize the timelines by which this busy world operates and we within it operate, but also recognize the potential for creating those Kairos moments by focusing completely on the moment that you're in. It occurs to me that an awful lot of our time is wasted in apprehension about the future or the past in that chronological timeline, and it leaves very little room for that Kairos moment in which complete transformation can take place, even in the most mundane circumstances. Let God in, focus on the moment,